So we're going to go to Matthew 4. Before I start reading the verses, there's something interesting about this chapter. In the beginning of the chapter, in Matthew 4, Jesus is led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. Now, one thing I want you to know is Jesus led a sinless life. So most of us don't have to be led by the devil to be tempted. Don't have to be led by the Spirit to be tempted, because we're tempted every single day because of sins that we've already committed. So he tempts us through that. But remember, Jesus lived a sinless, perfect life. But regardless of how much sin you commit or don't commit, the enemy still comes after you. But what's interesting in Jesus' case, that since he didn't have any, instead of waiting for the enemy to attack him, he went after the enemy. Isn't that awesome? So he didn't wait for the enemy to come after him and tempt him. He went and said, hey, you know what? You want to try me? Try me. So he went and went out to a deserted place and waited for the enemy to tempt him after he'd been fasting for 40 days. He took the fight to the enemy. So instead of running from the devil like most of us do, saying, devil, please leave me alone. Please stop messing with me. He stood up and stood his ground and fought the enemy. Amen? But Jesus makes it past that temptation by using the word and telling the enemy to flee after that. After 3 temptations, Jesus tells the enemy to flee. And almost immediately after being tempted by the enemy, Jesus heads to Galilee to choose his disciples. Amen? So that's where we're going to start in Matthew 4, verse 18. And I'm going to do one extra verse that I did not put in the computer. So we're going to go down to verse 23. And it says, in verse 18, it says, and Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw 2 brothers, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Then he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. They immediately left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee their father, mending their nets. He called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. And Jesus went about Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease among the people. In verse 24 starts out, and his fame went throughout Syria, all throughout Syria. So I want to go back to one very interesting verse, and we're going to concentrate on that today. And it's how Jesus called his disciples. There's a lot in this statement, so much so that it's the entirety of the message today, amen? You're thinking, wow, one verse, we're going to be out of here by 11:45. Maybe not, I don't know, we'll see. But when he calls his disciples, he calls these people that aren't yet his disciples, who would become his disciples, and he says this in Matthew 4:19. He said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. For all the parents out there, especially fathers, this is a very important verse. Even grandparents, youth leaders, anybody who leads kids, whether you're a teacher or anybody else, you definitely should have your listening ears on today. Because this message should change the way you parent, unless you're already doing it. In reality, parenting is just leading. Parenting is leading. What happens is most of the time we tell instead of leading. And that's where we get it wrong. See, if you tell your kid to do something, they're not going to do it unless they see you doing it as well. You ever heard the saying, your kids don't do what you say, they do what you do? Amen. But Jesus didn't have the luxury of giving birth to his disciples. He got these disciples that after they had already grown up. Some people believe they were teenagers. They could have been as old as in their 30s. But the fact is, their age doesn't matter. Once you get up to teenage years, you're already pretty much set in your ways, right? So what he was doing is, he was taking out everything they had learned, and he had to mold them to the way that they needed to be based on each one of them's character, right? So because he didn't get to raise them, he didn't get to have them lead up to him the whole time. So he didn't have them from birth until it was time for them to minister. So he had a very short span with these disciples. Roughly about 3 years, maybe even shorter. But first off, the first thing that Jesus says is, follow me. Follow me and I will make you fishers of men. The first thing he said to them was, follow me. That word follow me means to follow me, come here, or to come follow me. To come after me. Notice, Jesus did not give an option. He said, come, follow me. Amen? He didn't ask them to come. He didn't beg them to come. He told them to come, follow me. At this point, think about this. Jesus has done no miracles. He hasn't done anything at this point. The only thing he's done at this point is invite them to follow him. See, they're not following a Jesus that's been doing miracles. He didn't do that till after he called his disciples. He didn't start his miracles until after he started calling his disciples. He hadn't healed anybody. He hadn't restored anyone. He hasn't raised anybody from the dead. So they're going after someone they might have known, but he was just sort of like everybody else. Right? You don't have to be super special as a parent or a father for your kids to follow you. Jesus took an interest in them. That's what he did. See, if you take an interest in your child, it may not be convenient. It may take a little bit of extra time to finish the work that you're doing. Because the kid's going to be asking questions. Hey, why do you do that? Why do you do that? They might want to help, and if they help, it's going to take longer. But inconvenience isn't parenting. Amen? But invite them to come with you when you're doing stuff. You don't have to always do their stuff. Invite them to come with you to do your stuff. Amen? That's what Jesus did. Jesus said, follow me. Yes, you should be taking an interest in what your children do. Yes, you should be going to their stuff too. But invite them to do whatever it is that you're doing that day. You have to go to the auto parts? Bring them along with you. It doesn't have to be a special day every time you take them. They just need time. That's the glamorous thing that kids are looking for in your life. They're looking for time. And Jesus offered that. Jesus didn't say, hey, come fish with me just like you've been doing. He said, follow me and I will make you into something. Amen? Fatherhood isn't just about helping your kids. It's not just about molding the next generation, but that's a good thing too. Fatherhood is the Lord's work. Fatherhood is kingdom work. See, this was the time that I was going to take the shirt off and reveal the main part. Amen? Being a good father, molding the next generation, Being a good disciple and discipling others, those are all great. And those are all what fathers should be. But being a father also means being a father to the fatherless. Amen. It's about being a kingdom father. Amen. He says, follow me. It wasn't just an open invitation for them to follow where he was going to. It wasn't like he was going on a hike. He said, follow me. 1 Corinthians 11:1, the King James Version says this, follow me as I follow Christ. That's Paul talking to the church at Corinth. He writes to them and says, follow me as I follow Christ. The New King James is a better translation. It says, imitate me as I also imitate Christ. That's a different word, follow, than what Jesus was saying. But anytime you invite someone to follow you, you're implying that they watch you as well. Amen? You can't follow someone without watching them, right? You ever play follow the leader? You ever try to do it with a blindfold? It doesn't really work, does it? So when he said, follow me, he's implying that they watch him as they go. Amen? They watch him, they imitate him. As a parent, you should be the one that leads your family. Amen? You should live your life in such a way that when your kid does the things that you do, you won't get onto them. You know how many times I have to discipline my kid for doing things that I do? I try not to let it happen very often, but there's different character traits that come out in your children. And you're trying to mold them out of it, right? Sometimes you mold them with wood. A little paddle, but the fact is that we should be able to tell our kids, imitate me as I also imitate Christ. We're not trying to take out their character. We're not trying to take out their personality. We're trying to mold them into a respectable, Jesus-loving disciple. Amen? It doesn't matter if they do things exactly how you do it. And that's what Jesus was saying, follow me. Because he didn't make the disciples exactly like him. He changed their character. He changed their mindset. Amen? Jesus invited his disciples to teach them to love others as much or as more themselves, to have a thriving relationship with God. That's what they should imitate in us. Amen? But Jesus was inviting his future disciples to follow him. And it says this again, Matthew 4:19, he said to them, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Follow me and I will make you. Follow me and I will make you. If you follow me, if you imitate me, if you trust me with your life, if you trust me to mold you, I will make you. See, he wasn't putting it on the disciples. He said, I will make you if you imitate me. If you follow me, I will make you into something. See, that takes time. That takes effort. Jesus didn't say, you know what? Y'all are messing around today. Go to your room. That's not how it works. That doesn't always work. You need to find teaching moments. Figure it out. Because you know what? If you get stressed out over their actions, what are they going to do when they get older? They're going to get stressed out and blow up. See, that's what happens when you have two parents and you have an honesty there between parents that say, you know what? You're not doing it right this time. That's not right. That's not the way we should have handled this. And sometimes you have to apologize to your children. Amen. Jesus was inviting his future disciples to trust him, and he would make them into something they were more, make them into something more than what they were right now. He was inviting them to follow him and to become like him. Amen. See, when you tell someone, follow me and I will make you, that means you have a plan for their life. See, you should have a plan for your children's life, not based on what you do, not based on what you want out of them, but based on their personality, based on how they fit in life, and see and mold them into what the best person that they can be. Amen. We're not molding our kids to be like us. They should be like us character-wise. They should be like us in serving Christ. But we should mold them into who they can become, to become the best them they can be. Amen. Anybody who has more than one child knows they're all different. You discipline them all the same. Every child is different. Some children, you yell at them and they're broken. Some children, you paddle them and they're broken. My child, I can beat her all day long, and I don't. I don't. You really don't have to spank Abigail. She knows what's right and what's wrong. If you tell her, she knows. But when you discipline a child, like my child, you can take everything away from her and it won't matter. She doesn't care. She'll move on to something else. But not every kid is like that. Some kids, you take away their favorite thing and that's it. They'll do whatever you tell them. But some kids aren't like that. Some kids care about the words and the actions more than the stuff. Amen? Our job is to have a plan for our children. To have a plan for them, to lead them to Christ. Raising them again to be Christ lovers and followers of Christ, not of followers of men. Amen? To be leaders of men. And that is our true purpose in life. One of our main purposes, Jesus said in Matthew 28, he says, go and make disciples of all nations. Amen. And then in Acts 2, and he says the same thing basically in Mark 16. Then in Acts 2, he says basically the same thing. He says it in a different way. But in Acts 2, he says, Judea, Samaria, and then he kept going out. Well, it starts first where you're at. Amen? It starts first in your home. And I'm not saying that you can't make disciples outside your home if you can't make disciples in your home. What I'm saying is you should make disciples in your home at the same time you're making disciples outside your home. Amen? See, the main thing for a child is not to get a passing grade or 100 on every single test. The main thing is that you train them to get hundreds in the tests of life. The main thing is to see them be a lover of Christ more than a lover of knowledge. Amen? Knowledge is great, but knowledge without wisdom is useless. Amen? I'd rather see my kid skate by with a 70 and be a lover of Christ and make hundreds and be the valedictorian and not know Christ at all. Overtime for the sake of overtime is not your purpose. I'm not saying that some people don't need to work overtime to provide for their family, but overtime for the sake of Overtime is not your purpose. Bigger, nicer vehicles are not your purpose. What we have to do is make first things first. Money doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You can have all the money in the world or be poor. It matters how you maintain that while maintaining a relationship with your children. Amen? A relationship with your children and with Christ. If you could do that, more power to you. Work as many hours as you need to. I work tons of hours, but I make my relationship with my family important too. Serve Christ with your kids, and your kids will serve Christ. Don't give it an option for your kids to come to church or not. Until they're on their own, paying their own bills, they don't get choices in life. It's your job to train them in the way that they should go. And if you make an option for a child living in your home to go to church or not, you're saying that it's an option for you. And if you make it an option for them, they're going to choose the easy way. Amen? So we need to teach our kids the easy way is not always the right way. Amen? They live with you. They're not your boss. Amen? Let me say that again. They live with you. They're not your boss. Amen? Lead your kids. They should not be leading you. But I will tell you this. There are times that children are the first one in the family to accept Christ. And that's when they have to lead their parents. Amen? Not tell their parents what to do, to lead them by example. Amen? Back to Matthew 4:19. Jesus again said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Follow me, come with me, imitate me, and I will cause you to become fishers of men. Amen. Notice that Jesus took their job fishing and changed it and adapted it and invited them to become more than just fishermen. He invited them to become more than just men that fish. He invited them to become fishers of men. Amen. So the last part in this statement, Jesus reveals everything that he's been telling them. Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. So he invited them to follow him, to come with him, to be like him, and told them, hey, I'm going to make you into something different than what you are. I'm going to mold you into something different than what you are. You're not just going to be a fisherman, you're going to be a fisher of men. He took what they were doing and invited them to do something with making an eternal difference. Amen? He said, follow me, come with me, imitate me, and I will make you to become fishers of men. The biggest part that people want in life is to become something different than what they are right now. Your child doesn't want to just be like they are. They're reverting back to what they are. They want you to invite them to become something more. Amen? And if you ask them to come with you, to spend time with you, you can make them to become something different than what they are right now. He's telling them, why fish just to eat when you can fish for something that has eternal value? Follow me, and I will make you to become fishers of men. By saying those simple yet powerful words, he invited his disciples to follow him and to become something different than what they were. Our kids are screaming out to become something different. And if it wasn't so, children wouldn't be following other children that do different stuff. There's so many things in this world that are drawing at your children no matter what age they are. The enemy wants to attack children for a reason. No matter what age they are, because if he can change the children, he can change the next generation. And if he can change the next generation, he can change the future of what we do. See, we're in a spiritual war for our children. No matter what age they are, no matter if they live in our house or they don't, you still have influence over them. Amen? You have the ability to go after them, fight for them, pray for them, love on them, show them something different than the world is offering them. Because the world offers them an alternative to what Christ offers. Amen? The world says, you know what? You're not good enough the way you are. The world says, you know what? All this influence that we have over you is making you think something different than what you are. So why don't you come and be like that? That's what the world says. The world is offering something that is physical, that is emotional. But we need to offer something that's bigger, spiritual, and eternal. Amen? That's why Jesus said, follow me, imitate me, and I will make you to become a fisher of men. He was offering them something eternal, something that was beyond who they were, something beyond in this world. See, when you make fishers of men, see, you can catch fish all day long, and you can eat those fish, you can sell them to other people, but that fish will eventually be gone. But see, when Jesus was inviting his disciples to become fishers of men, he was offering them something eternal. See, if you catch a fish of a man, that man will go and make more disciples and more disciples and more disciples. And that one person could change the life of 30 or 40,000 people or more. It could change their whole atmosphere in their home. It could change their children's life. It can change everyone's life around them. Just from one person. Just from one person. Amen? The old saying goes, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Amen? Well, if you teach a man to fish for men, you feed the world for a lifetime. Amen? Parents, and in particular fathers, should be using this same formula to mold their children. To love on them, to care for them, to teach them, to be godly men and women who walk in integrity no matter what profession they choose, no matter how much money they make, and raise them to be men and women who don't worship a paycheck but have a deep and vital relationship with Christ. Teach them to not worship their friends. Teach them to not worship movie stars and music stars. Teach them to worship the one who can truly make a difference in their lives. And that's what life is all about, amen? You know, if we don't lead children, they're stuck like having an old paper map, not knowing where they're at, not knowing where they're going, and just figuring it out. But see, when we lead our children, we're like giving them a GPS. That no matter where they're at, no matter what happens in life, they'll always know which direction to go. They may not always take it. There may be a lot of redirecting in their life, but eventually they're going to find their way back home. Amen? So we need to focus and intentionally lead our children to Christ. Amen. To intentionally invite them to follow us, to spend time with us. Amen. Without neglecting spending time with them. Amen. Don't throw them out in life to have them look at this world standard to say, you know what, this is the way that I should go. And then, you know, we do this. There's people that do this. They're like, hey, you know what, I'm just going to not lead my kids. I'm not going to do this. And then they wonder later why they're living like hell. See, if we don't lead them, if we don't give them a basis of where they should be going, if we don't give them a basis of what they should be doing, there's only two choices they can make. To follow Christ and His ways, and they're going to be living like a Christian, no matter how broad that statement is, or they're going to be living like hell. Amen? And it can't be a surprise for us because we know. Because it's our choice to lead our children or not. Amen? Call them out. Fight for your kids. Lead them in a way that they will follow you. Imitate Christ. Tell them to follow you. And make them into something that they're not. Amen?